Cooper.
Another mystery buried deep in the hills of eastern Washington keeps resurfacing, a bottomless pit said to be a pathway to the paranormal.
In 1997, a mysterious fax arrived on the desk of Art Bell, the well-known host of the late-night radio show Coast to Coast AM.
I got to thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be an awfully deep hole. There were some helicopter activity.
The message came from a man named Mel Waters, who had an astonishing story to share. Mel claimed to have discovered what appeared to be a bottomless pit on his property near Manastash, Washington. As he described his experiences on air, listeners were captivated. Could this be a gateway to another dimension? A concealed government experiment hiding in plain sight?
All right. When did you discover this hole?
Well, the hole has always been there. We've been out there for a couple of years now, and the hole has been there since we've been there. It's been there since the previous owner was there, and the previous owner there was quite elderly, and I'd say he was there for a good 30, 40 years before we moved in.
Wow.
Now, this story has been confirmed. Scientists have finally unraveled the mystery of Mel's hole, and the truth is more disturbing than anyone imagined. The deep mystery of Mel's hole. Among the strangest unsolved mysteries is Mel's hole, a seemingly infinite abyss on the land of a man known as Mel Waters. His account gained public attention in 1997 when he spoke with radio host Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM. Situated in the remote Manastash Ridge region of Washington state, this hole fascinated many due to its eerie characteristics and unexplained properties. Mel, who said he had purchased the property a few years earlier, claimed the hole had already been there long before he arrived. Local residents treated it like an endless trash pit, discarding all kinds of waste into it, yet it never filled up. Strangely, no matter how much was thrown in, no one ever heard a sound. There was never a thud, splash, or any indication that objects had reached the bottom. It was as if the pit simply consumed everything that entered it. From a distance, Mel's hole appeared to be nothing more than a large opening in the ground, but upon closer inspection, its peculiarities became more obvious. Measuring about 9 feet in diameter, the edges were unnaturally smooth, standing in contrast to the rugged terrain surrounding it. A stone retaining wall lined the first 15 feet of the hole, but beyond that, the darkness seemed endless. Mel described an overwhelming sense of unease emanating from the pit. Even his usually obedient dogs refused to go near it. No amount of encouragement could get them close to the edge. It was as if some invisible force repelled them. Wild animals also avoided it, behaving as though they sensed something unnatural. One of the most unsettling accounts tied to Mel's hole involved a neighbor and his deceased hunting dog. After the neighbor disposed of the dog's body in the pit, he was shocked to later see what looked like the same dog roaming the woods. It had the same collar and identical features, yet it no longer recognized its owner. Despite the neighbor's attempts to call it over, the dog kept its distance, as if it had returned from the dead, but without any memory of its past life. Mel's curiosity drove him to conduct experiments in an attempt to determine the depth of the hole. Using his fishing experience, he came up with a plan to lower a line with a roll of lifesaver candies attached, hoping to detect water at the bottom. After dropping 1,000 feet of line, he pulled it back up and found the candies completely dry and intact. This only led to more questions. There was no water, and the bottom was still nowhere in sight. Determined to keep going, Mel decided to use a heavier object, a 1-pound lead weight. He continued feeding out his fishing line, all 80,000 feet of it, or roughly 15 miles, and still never hit the bottom. To put that into perspective, the deepest cave in the world reaches about 7,200 feet, yet Mel had exceeded that depth more than 10 times without encountering anything. This left him and those following the story completely puzzled. As if the hole's depth wasn't strange enough, other bizarre occurrences were linked to it. Mel and several locals reported witnessing unusual activity around the pit. Some claimed they had seen a beam of black light shooting out of it, something that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Radios brought near the hole would start playing old broadcasts or music from the past, as if the pit was somehow connected to different points in time. Others reported that metals placed near the hole would inexplicably transform into different substances. The story took an even more bizarre turn when, according to Mel, federal agents seized control of the land. They forced him to lease the property to the government under mysterious circumstances. The official explanation was that a downed aircraft had been recovered in the area, but many suspected the government had found something far more unusual. With the land under federal control, Mel claimed that the lease payments allowed him to move to Australia, where he relocated. Over the years, the legend of Mel's Hole has continued to intrigue and mystify. The mystery deepened further with the testimony of Red Elk, a Native American medicine man who stated that his father had shown him the hole back in the 1960s, saying it had no bottom. Red Elk believed that the hole carried deep spiritual significance, something that extended beyond the physical world. The pit's unexplained depth and strange animal experiments. This was only the beginning of a series of even more unsettling discoveries linked to Mel's Hole. After capturing the attention of radio listeners during his first conversation with Art Bell, Mel Waters returned to share even more bizarre stories and experiments conducted at the mysterious pit. Each new revelation defied logic and science, leaving everyone who followed the tale even more mystified. One of the ongoing debates was whether the fishing line Mel used to measure the hole's depth had ever actually reached the bottom. Some callers speculated that the line might have already hit the bottom, but remained taut due to the immense weight pulling it downward. Others argued that with the sheer weight of 80,000 feet of line, it should have snapped if there was nothing supporting it. What made this even more puzzling was the complete lack of sound. No echo, no indication that objects thrown in ever hit anything solid. Art Bell himself made a controversial suggestion. Why not lower someone into the pit to gather first-hand information? While the idea may have sounded like a joke, it reflected the frustration of those trying to make sense of the mystery. No one knew what was at the bottom, if there even was one, and every new experiment only led to more questions. One of the most disturbing experiments involved lowering live animals into the pit. Mel recounted how, during one attempt, he decided to lower a live sheep into the hole. As the animal descended, its bleating was heard clearly for several minutes, but then, all at once, it went silent. When the sheep was retrieved, Mel and his team were horrified by what they found. The animal had been cooked from the inside out. Even more unsettling, inside its body was a strange living creature with eyes that bore an eerie resemblance to those of a human. The implications of this discovery were both terrifying and baffling. What could have caused such a transformation within the pit? And what exactly was this entity? Mel didn't stop there. He claimed that this strange being had healed him of cancer before leaping back into the dark abyss of the hole. The possibility that the pit might have healing abilities only deepened the mystery, suggesting that it wasn't just a destructive force, but also a source of regeneration. A pit that defies explanation. Mel decided to lower a bucket thousands of feet into the hole, curious about what might happen. When he finally pulled it back up, the ice inside was both hot and unmelted. Even more bizarre, it had somehow become a flammable substance. How does ice, something defined by its cold nature, turn into something that burns? This was just one of many instances where the pit appeared to challenge the basic rules of nature. Mel also suggested there were larger forces at play when he spoke about a strange event involving fiber optic equipment being delivered to a warehouse in Ellensburg, supposedly collected by an Israeli group. While he couldn't say for sure if it was connected to the hole, it hinted that whatever was happening extended far beyond the local area. Another truck driver reported transporting large scientific instruments from the Lawrence Livermore National Lab in San Francisco, a facility that conducts work for the military, adding to the growing speculation. Amazingly, the story didn't stop there. Mel claimed that a mysterious creature from the pit cured his cancer before vanishing back into the depths. The recovery seemed almost miraculous, yet it only deepened the question of what exactly was lurking within the hole. The presence of this entity might explain why animals instinctively avoided the area. Birds refused to fly over it, and dogs stayed far away. It was clear that whatever existed inside the pit had an impact on both the living and the dead. In an unexpected turn, Art Bell suggested that Mel could turn the hole into a business by offering the government or private companies a way to dispose of hazardous waste. If the hole truly had no bottom, it could theoretically absorb toxic materials, even radioactive waste, without causing harm. Though Mel didn't completely reject the idea, he quickly reassured listeners that the hole had never caused any damage to the local environment, even after years of people tossing various kinds of trash into it. The hidden location of Mel's hole. The exact whereabouts of Mel's hole remain unknown, with only vague descriptions and speculation to go by. Over the years, Mel Waters and others who claim to have found it have kept its location a mystery. What is known is that it is supposedly somewhere on Manistash Ridge, around 9 to 10 miles southwest of Ellensburg, Washington. Pinpointing its precise location has proven difficult, only adding to the mystery of what might be hidden there. One person who became fascinated by Mel's hole was Jack Powell, a geologist from Ellensburg. With a long career in petroleum exploration and over a decade of teaching geology at Central Washington University, Jack first heard about the hole while driving home one evening. The source of this strange story was Coast to Coast AM, a radio show hosted by Art Bell that covered paranormal topics ranging from UFOs to Bigfoot. Jack listened with interest, though he didn't take the show too seriously. He saw it as entertainment rather than fact. Still, something about Mel's hole caught his attention, likely because of his familiarity with the area. Growing up in Catitas Valley, he had explored old mine shafts, and he recalled one in particular that could have been mistaken for the bottomless pit Mel Waters described. That mine, however, was likely no deeper than 90 feet, perhaps 300 feet at most in its prime. The idea that it matched the rumored depths of Mel's hole, said to stretch for miles, seemed far-fetched to him. The mystery of Mel's hole goes beyond its hidden location. The area around Ellensburg is filled with eerie places that fit the theme of something strange lurking beneath the Earth's surface. For those searching for the hole, certain roads in Washington might amplify the sense of mystery. Take State Route 900, a highway running between Renton and Issaquah. Many drivers have reported an unsettling feeling while traveling this dark, winding road. The dense forest flanking it gives off an eerie atmosphere, especially at night when fog settles in, reducing visibility. With no streetlights for miles, the road feels isolated, and some travelers have even claimed to see shadowy figures on the roadside. Another road that adds to the unease is US 12, which cuts through some of Washington's most remote areas. Driving it at night can create the eerie sensation of being completely alone. The highway is known for sharp curves and steep drop-offs, where a single wrong turn could lead to disaster. Then there's SR 20, Washington's longest highway. Spanning over 436 miles, it connects the western part of the state to its eastern borders. Heavy snowfall shuts down sections of the road every winter, and poor weather makes it a frequent site for accidents. The farther one travels along SR20, the more isolated it feels, making it the kind of place where something as strange as Mel's Hole could exist. For those who can handle a truly nerve-wracking drive, Hart's Pass Road, also known as NF54, is perhaps the most dangerous of them all. Leading up to Slate Peak Lookout, this narrow, winding road is infamous for its sheer drop-offs and lack of guardrails. One of its more chilling nicknames, Dead Horse Point, hints at the risks involved. Navigating this route is a white-knuckle experience, with steep cliffs making every turn feel like a gamble. If there were ever a place that could evoke the danger and mystery surrounding Mel's Hole, it would be this road. A mysterious link to Native Americans. In September 2001, after multiple appearances on Coast to Coast AM, Mel Waters received an invitation from a group of Native Americans in Nevada. They were drawn to his knowledge of natural medicine, particularly the unique plants he cultivated near the infamous hole in Washington. Eager to learn more about their traditions and share his research, Mel accepted their invitation to visit the reservation. However, upon arriving, he realized the visit wasn't just about plant medicine. The locals showed a strong interest in his experiences with the mysterious hole. After several days of exchanging knowledge about natural remedies, they took him on a journey to witness something extraordinary. What they revealed was astonishing. A second mysterious hole near a village settled by Basque families. This hole bore a striking resemblance to the one Mel had described in Washington. It was around 9 feet wide, but unlike the stone walls of the original hole, this one had a metal collar surrounding it. Even more puzzling, the new hole radiated an unusual warmth, unlike anything Mel had encountered before. Just like the first hole, it seemed to absorb sound, creating an unsettling silence that disturbed both people and animals. Curious to test its properties, Mel and the locals conducted some of the same experiments he had performed in Washington. They lowered a bucket of ice into the hole, expecting it to melt. Instead, the ice remained warm, and when they attempted to melt it over a fire, it ignited, producing a flame that gave off heat. This fire ice became a topic of great fascination. Mel later shared on the radio how one villager even used this burning ice to heat their cabin through the winter. The discovery of this second hole led Mel to believe that these strange phenomena weren't isolated. If 2 such holes existed, how many more might be out there? What could these strange formations mean? Could there be a deeper connection between them that remains undiscovered? Mel's return in 2002. No matter how many times Mel Waters tried to separate himself from the mysteries of the hole, something always seemed to draw him back. Even after being forced to leave Washington and relocate to Australia, the enigma of the bottomless pit stayed on his mind, constantly fueling his curiosity. It felt as if the hole had a pull he couldn't resist. In December 2002, Mel resurfaced on Coast to Coast AM with new, baffling updates. His reappearance didn't go unnoticed, quickly attracting attention from authorities once again. The most unusual part of his update involved what he called ever-burning ice. Unlike any known substance, this ice didn't melt, but instead ignited when exposed to flames, giving off heat rather than dissolving. A Basque man living near the hole decided to use a small can of this burning ice to heat his wood stove, thinking it would be an efficient way to stay warm during the freezing winter. What happened next defied explanation. One day, the man returned home to find that his wood stove had sunk through the floor, crashing a foot into the ground. Instead of simply producing heat, the burning ice had somehow altered the material beneath the stove, weakening it to the point of collapse. Not discouraged, the man repaired the stovepipe and continued using it, now with the stove sitting below floor level. For a time, everything seemed normal. But within a couple of weeks, the entire cabin began to crumble. The walls disintegrated into dust, and the structure collapsed completely, forcing the man to move in with his brothers. The incident left the man confused, prompting him to contact Mel and share his unusual experience. Curious about the effects of the burning ice, Mel decided to reach out to one of the mysterious officials he had encountered during his time in Australia. This official, who had previously shown keen interest in Mel's research on the hole, reacted with urgency and immediately requested the exact location of the cabin along with directions to the site. With no other option, the cabin owner provided the details and observed from a distance as a team arrived, equipped with cranes and heavy machinery. Their presence only deepened the mystery. They struggled for hours to lift the wood stove, which had become unnaturally heavy. Chains and cranes failed to move it until, after much effort, they finally managed to extract it using water and sheer force. The stove was loaded onto a massive truck, and the team departed without offering any explanation. This event only increased Mel's paranoia. He began to feel as though he was being watched, followed by unknown figures who could be linked to the authorities or a secret organization. His anxiety grew, and he started avoiding trips to the hole, fearing that his involvement might lead to its discovery. Mel had long suspected that the hole was more than just a geological anomaly, and now it was clear that others were just as, if not more, interested in whatever lay beneath. The authorities' attention was nothing new. Mel had drawn their interest before, especially following his earlier experiments with the hole in Washington. Those experiments had led to strange occurrences, from the apparent revival of dead animals to an eerie silence that settled over the area. But this time, the arrival of a team with heavy machinery suggested that the situation surrounding the hole was far more significant than anyone had previously thought. Despite his growing fears, Mel couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to continue investigating. The pull of the hole was too strong to ignore. The final cover-up. When Mel attempted to return to the site, he encountered a reality far more unsettling than he expected. It was his last attempt to reach the mysterious hole, but this time, access had been completely shut down. What had once been his private obsession was now a restricted area, guarded by federal agents. The official explanation? A plane crash. At least, that was the story given by a man in a suit, while individuals in biohazard suits stood in the background. Mel wasn't convinced, and speculation quickly spread. Locals believed the government's interest in the pit wasn't just about covering up an accident. Many suspected that something had been discovered deep within, something dangerous enough to be hidden from the public. Years later, Mel tried once again to return to Washington, disregarding the restrictions placed on him. However, his journey took a strange turn. While traveling to visit his nephew, a fight broke out on the bus. When police intervened, Mel blacked out. When he regained consciousness, he was in an alley in San Francisco, missing his wallet, keys, and several of his teeth. He also found strange marks on his arm, as if he had been injected with something. That was the last time Mel attempted to reclaim his property. After that, the government took full control. Witnesses claimed to have seen soldiers patrolling the area, and satellite images of the site on Google Maps appeared blacked out, as if the location was intentionally hidden. This wasn't the first case of a deep hole with strange phenomena. In Russia, the Kola Super Deep borehole was drilled over 40,000 feet into the earth, where researchers reported hearing disturbing sounds, cries and screams that some believed to be voices from the underworld. Others claimed it was the sound of something far worse. And if Mel's hole was even deeper, what exactly had the government found that they refused to reveal? A terrible discovery. After years of speculation, a team of researchers in hazmat suits gathered around the infamous hole, expecting to analyze an unusual geological formation. What they found was unlike anything they had encountered before. The hole wasn't just deep, it emitted an energy that defied all known scientific principles. Tucker Carlson addressed the shocking discovery on his show, stating, "It's disturbing. If this is real, what else is out there that we have no idea about?" His comments reflected growing concerns among both the public and experts. The scientists examining the site revealed that the energy coming from the hole could not be explained by any known theory. One lead researcher, standing near the pit, stated that the hole appeared to distort time and space itself. Carlson's words left a chilling impression. "We spent years thinking this was just a myth. Now, not only is it real, it's something far more dangerous, and we're only beginning to understand what it could mean." So, what are your thoughts on this mystery? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe for more content.